Hi, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
Is he taken?
Hey, Kiernan.
Now, did you forget the medium for a moment?
Because I know that we're like a media company, we're not just a podcast, but
we're just a podcast.
We're just a podcast.
I remember maybe 100 episodes ago, you just started to bring up we were going to start a newsletter.
Yeah.
Even though we had not talked about it. We had not aligned on that.
We should still consider it, Substack where it's at.
I mean, listen, the audience should be thrilled to know you and I have had some strategy meetings lately. Reluctantly, we're talking about video. We're talking about maybe a couple bonus episodes like quickies that are, I don't want to reveal, but we have pretty good ideas for a few series that aren't these and then meaty, substantial episodes.
My favorite thing is the Travel with Kiernan series where folks can pay just to hang out with you at any of their favorite locations. You'll come, you'll be, take them around.
I've done a couple paid gigs for the book. People want the special Boston tour. You can't get a better expert than me at the moment.
That's true. No,
did I tell you I'm going to be on a TV show up around here? There's a show people really like. It's really for the over 50 crowd. It's called Chronicle, and I just did a whole day and a half of shooting spots around Boston, secret spots.
Oh, I love that. We have we have a show.
Post that up.
In my hometown, we have a show called Travels with Charlie, and he goes around to all these different places on the Eastern Shore, and there's a lot of him doing kind of weird local poetry over shots of cows grazing.
I'd have to guess that's probably 3-4 good spots to visit. I mean, that's just some meaty episodes.
All right.
Well, Ryan, first we should just cover today is an exciting follow-up to your last Chile episode.
That's right. The last episode, I took folks into the heart of Chile, into Santiago. And this episode, we're going to talk about some of the things you can do outside of Santiago, either day trip
outside the heart,
just outside
the capillary.
You can extend that metaphor better than me. Yeah.
Well, it's very exciting. Chile has always been high on my list. I feel compelled. I think eventually I'll be able to do a follow-up series where I concentrate on the nature of Chile because I don't know. Are you going to get into some is there good nature in these day trips?
One of them. Yeah.
Okay. I'm edge of my seat right here.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But before we dive into the meat, we've got to honor the tradition of keeping your mother, Judy, up to date. Judy is, of course, very rarely hearing from her son, Ryan, because he's so busy flitting about from WeWork to WeWork in Europe. So this is what we call the Judy Alert to ensure that she knows that you are safe and sound and taking care of each other. I know she always reaches out to me and says, "Thank you, Kiernan. You're the son I wanted. You're the son I never had. I still don't have." So Ryan, she asks about her grandkids, which are my kids. So Ryan, where are you for Judy?
I am in Bucharest, Romania.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah. I'm at an Airbnb that is when I was coming up to the Airbnb, it was at night. I'd flown in from Madrid and it's dark out, and the building is this very 1950s communist, huge, it has multiple blocks, building, and it was sort of frightening, but it's really lovely inside, and actually the area is really lovely. And Bucharest, I haven't been here since 2018, and it's different.
In that it feels more Western?
In that, it's definitely, I don't know if gentrified is the term, but there's a Louis Vuitton store down the street.
I guess I would say gentrification is the term then, yes.
I walked by a Rolex store. I don't think there was a Rolex store in Bucharest in 2018. I don't remember it, but it's definitely got a polish to it, and there's a lot of young hipster kind of vibe. It's a cool city because it's very East meets West sort of vibes.
Yeah, that's cool. And does the architecture feel, I mean, I don't want to ruin the future Bucharest episode that we'll be doing, but is the architecture reflective of the same? You see like newer architecture looking less Russia inspired?
Yeah. There's like three periods. There's like the gorgeous, like, European kind of style. And then there's a scary kind of Soviet style, brutalist. There's some beautiful buildings from that era. And then there's the now style, which is, as you can imagine, it's a real mixed bag of the post-Soviet era of sort of astonishingly bad buildings and some beautiful buildings too.
That sounds cool. I have been sort of booking away. I've traveled a fair amount in Eastern Europe, but I've always felt like these Eastern European countries are really great family destinations because they tend to not be terribly intimidating, and people are usually super welcoming of travelers. And so Romania is definitely on the list for that.
Romania is super safe. There's like a lot of nature stuff. I'm going out to Dracula's castle this weekend.
Oh, are you? Yeah, I was just about to ask.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. And so yeah, it's going to be interesting. So we'll definitely do an episode.
I'm gonna send you a Transylvania travel article that I had booked away for this family trip that we will eventually go on. So I'm gonna send it to you so that you have the background.
The city that is sort of the stop, sort of they call it Vampire Base Camp. Because it's the place people stay overnight when you're going to Dracula's castle. And that city looks to be super family friendly and really beautiful, preserved. So I can't wait to talk about all this. It's exciting. But we're talking about Santiago today, or the outskirts of.
Yes. We're going to keep ourselves in South America, but not before a couple more bits of business. I mean, first, we have an incredibly exciting announcement. The fact that I've even waited this long to say it is shocking, which is, right, that we've continued our quest for Rick Steves, even though Rick has become a frequent guest on the show. By which I mean, he 100 episodes ago, he sent us a little recording, a video recording, which we should probably repost, congratulating us on 100 episodes. And I'm happy to say that for our next episode 200, Rick is coming back.
I am so thrilled that Rick is coming back next episode. He's got this new book out. It's going to be.
It's a great new book, and we'll be talking about the book. So it's called On the Hippie Trail, and it's all about the formative road trip that he made, and he calls it the Hippie Trail. And it's like his unedited, well, they're edited, but his true journals that he kept at that time, and it's got all the hallmarks of what we love about Rick Steves. And it's fun to hear him outside the European context because that's usually where we experience him. So it's going to be super fun. And of course, we're mostly relieved because he got over cancer. And so the man does not rest. He comes right back out. And we're super honored to have him on episode 200, a fitting tribute to 200 episodes.
200 episodes. You know who's listened to probably all 200?
I have an idea. Yeah.
Corn Husker 55.
All right, Corn Husker 55. For those who don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of Out of Office, Corn Husker 55 is a reviewer on iTunes who really just hates us. And he used to come on fairly regularly and post negative reviews, and they've gotten buried over the years. I mean, I don't think we've seen him for a year or so, right, Rye?
Yeah, it's been about a year, I guess. And, when you post a new review, if you posted a review, it bumps your old review and takes your new review and puts it at the very top.
Right.
Yeah. So Mr. Cornhusker left us a review.
I just don't understand why he keeps coming back. He hates us.
Yeah.
Does he forget that he hates us?
Maybe he was interested in one of the episodes, like Berlin museums, and then he remembered how much he hated us.
So here's what Cornhusker 55 has to say for just 4 days ago. Hosts are super immature millennials, which I'm sure, Ryan, you're probably honored as a boomer. You're probably honored to be referred to
both
as
millennials.
Almost, I mean, also immature. I don't think we're terribly immature. No. We're not making, fart and scatological jokes here. We talk high politics. Yeah. We talk news of the day.
You live a very adult, mature life, and I live something,
You live a very continental life.
Yeah, that's true.
Almost zero knowledge of the subject matter. It's like you're reading Wikipedia. Sad lack of knowledge. And now, Ryan, famously, You're a chat GPT, man. You're not relying on Wikipedia. That's really low, Corn Husker 55.
Well, I wanted to defend Wikipedia here because I actually think when
Okay, that's not going to help our case.
but when you go to a city, the Wikipedia is a pretty good place to start.
You could do worse than Wikipedia, sure.
Because it gives you a huge sort of like overview of everything about the city. And I find that really useful, especially when I'm on like I walked around my first day and I'm kind of like, what's going on here? And then the second day I'll spend in bed, reading through the Wikipedia, not the whole day, in the morning.
I've got a firm belief that there is anti-Catholic sentiment in below the below Cornhuskers review here, because I'm thinking to our most information-packed episode of late, and it was the Vatican for sure. Yeah. And we had people writing in saying, God, Kiernan just wouldn't stop talking about episode, which, is also the point of a podcast. But it was information packed. And I did a lot of research, and I'm talking like books, Cornhusker 55. So I have to say that saying that the commentary that we bring is just Wikipedia, it's simply not true.
Yeah, we're going to all these places.
Yeah. Well, that's another good point. We don't make episodes about places we haven't been. Cornhusker. So I think that this should be a call to arms for the out of office loyalists to understand that Ryan and I do a lot more than read Wikipedia. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just getting choked up. Cornhusker 55. And you know what, Ryan? We should pray for Cornhusker 55.
We will.
But what we're asking for our fans is for in honor of episode 200. I mean, this is 199, 200. Rick coming up next. Please go on to iTunes, give us the 5 stars, leave a positive review, because what that's going to do is it's going to push Cornhusker down. And he really seems to be the only one who's giving us negative reviews.
Yeah, he is definitely our troll. Every show's got to have a troll, and we've got Cornhusker 55.
Yeah. That could be a spin-off series.
So you know where I could pray for Cornhusker?
Where's that?
Is I am going to Rome.
Oh, when's that?
So, I had to leave the country early, so I had to cancel my last leg in Paris. And
yes. You're saying you had to leave Europe,
right? And so,
which is not a country; it's many countries.
It's one
union.
It's one union of countries. It's a block. And I have to leave the block earlier than I thought. So I was trying to figure out what way to fly from Sofia, where I'm going to be, to get to Madrid, where my flight home was. And the way that made the most sense was I got an incredibly cheap flight to Rome. So I'm going to be in Rome for a week before I.
Oh, this is fantastic. When is this?
This will be the last week of April.
Last week of April. Okay, great. Yeah. So, we did our Vatican episode. Yeah. We said we're going to do a couple Rome episodes following that. So I'm going to have to give you a bunch of places to visit, and then you do a bunch on your own, and then we could have a great Rome series. This summer,
there's some stuff to see in Rome.
Everybody's heading to Rome this year.
Well, I'm excited to I'll get to see. I got to buy my tickets ASAP for. Oh my God!
The Vatican Museums.
The Vatican Museums, yeah.
Yes, of course. And you got to get to St. Peter's. Yeah. But there's so much stuff. I'm super jealous. Right, you're gonna have a great time.
It's gonna be awesome. But I think today we're gonna go back to Chile, and that's gonna be a long flight, so we should probably take off.
Tell the cabin crew.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
You know what I learned? The longest single flight is.
I don't know. At one point, the longest flight was from New York to Hong Kong, and Catherine and I took that flight.
The longest current flight, I believe, or it's just the loneliest, is a Santiago to Sydney direct.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
I would have expected an East Coast United States to Sydney. Maybe that's beyond the realm of the reasonable.
Yeah, maybe that doesn't happen. But there's a really fun graphic of this Qantas flight, and you see all these other flights like everywhere. Anywhere else you're flying, there's a lot of other flights.
Just before you put this misinformation out for Cornhusker, check Wikipedia just to be sure.
I will. Anyway, I do want one day in Santiago to take that flight. But what we're talking about today are places that I went around Santiago while I was there. And these are all, within 2 hour drive of Santiago. You can, to all these places, you can go on like TripAdvisor or Viator and buy like a tour to go to any of these places. You can also rent a car or a driver. Your hotel can set that up, or we always just become friends with the first Uber driver we meet. And then we just kind of text them and they become our tour person for the trip. So we had one guy who took us everywhere and had one of these really lovely, like Chinese hybrids, like the BYDs that are just such clean, nice cars.
So famously pro-China, Ryan.
Yes. So I want to talk about the first, so I want to talk about the sort of the biggest place people go outside of Santiago. And this is about 2 hour drive out of town. And, we stayed for a week. People stay for the night, people go for the day. So there's a lot to do, but there's also only a few things that you kind of like have to do while you're there. And that's Valparaíso and Vina del Mar. And these are two little towns right on the Pacific that are basically connected, and they overlook, a single bay, the Valparaíso Bay, and the city. It's nicknamed the Jewel of the Pacific because it's really beautiful. It has a lot of like different types of architecture because over the years, historically, like a lot of different, countries had folks who moved there. So there's like, this Italian architecture and English architecture and, Spanish architecture. So the city has like a really interesting kind of like cobbled together look. But what makes it really special are all these different hills that kind of go down to the bay. And there are something like 30 different unique hills that the city is built into. And all these hills have different stairs. So there's a ton of stairs. This is not a place to spend time if you get winded walking up and down stairs because the entire city is, connected by these stairs. And all the stairs are painted. So it's incredibly beautiful, these muraled stairs. So you might be walking up one stair that's looks like a piano keys. You might be walking up another that's a girl playing jump rope. And I took some pictures of some of these, but it's an incredibly beautiful place to walk around. All these different hills where they've built, these different neighborhoods, which all have all these unique architecture.
That's really nice. And is there like a walking tour or anything you did, or did you just kind of walk around and discover all that artwork yourself?
So we did a walking tour. There's a couple reasons for this. So first is, it was, we had just got there. We didn't know the way around the town. It's incredibly confusing to walk around these little streets and these stairs. So it's not like you can kind of easily find your way to the main place just looking at Google Maps because the town's in 3D and Google Maps is 2D, so it's sort of hard to know where you're supposed to be walking. So we ended up getting a tour that started down in the pier sort of area where the old Chilean Navy used to be, and then sort of walked our way up the hills sort of all around. And we found this tour guide on Viator, and he was a nightmare. And the first thing he showed up.
Why was he a nightmare?
Yeah. So the first thing he shows up, Kiernan, and he is he's a vampire. And I don't mean like he's dressed a little bit like a vampire, or he's wearing
dressed as a vampire.
He's dressed as a vampire.
Is that his shtick?
He's got white face paint on, so he looks really pale. And he's gone to the lengths of body modification where his teeth are fangs.
Sharpened. Oh my God.
But we just got this tour, and it's like a tour company. So we didn't get we didn't pick a vampire tour.
So I was just going to ask. And also, is there any vampire legend about the town?
No.
How does it relate? Especially you're talking to us on the cusp of heading to Transylvania.
Yeah, I know. He's just a goth kid in the middle who like moved there during the pandemic from Santiago. He was a bad tour guide, and he kept making fun of people for being weird. And the whole time, Chase and I kept looking at each other, being like, "This man is a vampire." There was nobody weird in this town that's weirder than this man who is a vampire. And he was talking about this tour guide who does these boat tours, and he's like, and he looks just like a pirate. You won't believe it. And I want to be like, you, sir, look like a vampire. So at least pirates existed.
He never addressed why he had this vampire look?
No, he asked us if we thought he was into like something stupid, like, do you think I'm into horror? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And he's like, why? I'm like, you're a vampire. And he was like, oh yeah, I did this. And I'm like, but it was really, I mean, when I say committed, he was fully committed. I mean, to the
body modification. Yeah. It's hard to be more committed than that.
So I recommend taking a tour. I avoid the vampire dude if you can. But a tour does help you sort of find your way around these hills. And the city itself, if you're going to go Google and you're going to read about it, people are going to say that it's like, it's dangerous. You definitely don't want to be walking around at night, but in the main part of the areas where we're talking today, during the day, you're fine. And you're probably with a friend, or so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But, at night there are a lot of like pickpockets and street crime, in the town.
And probably, bats turning into humans, sucking your blood while you sleep.
I'll post a picture of him.
You go. Did you take a surreptitious picture?
I did. Absolutely. I did. I had to. Okay. So a couple things you might see when you're walking around the hills. There's a really cool, gorgeous art museum called the Museo Barbarossa. And this is in an old mansion. And, it's got some Chilean art and some European art, but I thought the real sort of beauty of the whole place was the historic house, which is owned by, one of the wealthy merchants who, this town was incredibly important for the Panama Canal. So this used to be where people would stop on their way to go around the Cape. And then once the Panama Canal was built, there's no more need to stop here because you're not going that far south anymore.
Sure.
So there's all this wealth from this period where this was like an incredible sort of shipping town. So, this is in one of these old houses.
Oh, they must have really hated that canal.
They hate that canal. Yeah. They like it now though, because the canal's full and there's been an increase in the amount of ships that are coming back to them. And they get a bunch of cruise ships now as well.
Oh, interesting. So they get like the canal overflow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah.
Good.
Or if your boat's too big to go in the canal, you have to go around. You can still stop.
That's a big boat.
Yeah.
Well, we should talk about Panama Canal enlargement some other time.
I'm obsessed. Another museum you should go to is Pablo Nerada's La Sebastiano Museo, and this is an incredible house that Pablo Nerado lived in. That is up in the hills, and you walk up into it like you're walking into a boat. And it was so cool. It has so much of his style. And, we've talked about him in the last episode. He loved to collect things. So, just a really fun collection of his, souvenirs from all his travels and gifts from around the world. And in this incredible house that overlooks the bay. And you can just imagine the dinner parties and stuff that he would throw there.
Oh man! I mean, what's interesting is it sounds like a golden age is pretty well preserved here.
Absolutely, yeah. It almost reminds me a little bit of Puerto Vallarta, which has these mansions from a bygone era that are up in the mountains, up in the hills. Yeah, I feel like it was a golden age that is definitely past, but has been well preserved in like the historic aspects, and then sort of the contemporary offerings like the murals and the public art, and the vibe is really fun. And it was a super cool place to spend a few days. We had a really good meal at La Caperucita y el Lobo, which is, what does that translate to?
Well, El Lobo is wolf, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Is that right?
That's right.
Caperucita. I mean, I want to say that's like a capuchin monk or something. What's that?
It's like the Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh, the cape. Yeah, the word cape's right there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like the little cape girl and the wolf.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
It's a little red. It's there isn't really
it's a little Red Riding Hood themed restaurant.
It's not really themed that way. It's just the name of it. It is super cool. Definitely make reservations. There are like 12 tables, and it's not that it's like super fine dining. It's just to get there, you have to walk up this kind of like rickety old staircase up a side of a hill that's steep, and basically you have a view of over the whole city and the bay while you're eating, and it's an awesome restaurant. The food is totally fine, not going to change your life. Good wine, but it is the vibe is so cool. And we tried to walk in, got turned away, got reservations for 3 days later, so we were able to go. But this is like sort of the main restaurant that folks should check out in the city. Like I said, the food is good, but the view is in the vibe is really special. And then a really good seafood place, obviously right on the Pacific Ocean, really good seafood. La Concepción, another place that has really good food and good views. And then I don't usually talk about hotels, but this was over New Year's, so we kind of splurged a little bit, and we got a very nice hotel, the Hotel Casa Higueras. And
I don't know what Higueras means either.
Me either.
Okay, well, that'll be something to Wikipedia. Corn Husker 55. Can you check that out for us, please?
But this was a really beautiful hotel in an old mansion. On New Year's Eve, they threw a party for the guests, and we had dinner downstairs, and we went up to the rooftop. And the Navy on New Year's Eve, they station all these battleships. That's a pretty big number, Chile. I'm impressed. Battleships outside in the bay there, and they're
Chilean battleships.
Yeah. And then at midnight, all the battleships shoot up fireworks, and it was one of the biggest coordinated fireworks displays I have ever seen. I mean, it went on forever. It went up and down the entire bay. I'll post a video of it, but it was really impressive. But in true South American style, it started at 12:03, which drove Chase and I wild. We're all sitting there. We're like, this is it. We're like, this is it. There was a couple things. And I'm like, that's pretty lame. And then all of a sudden all of a sudden the world takes off.
That's really funny. By the way, quick Googling, Higueras means fig trees. Fig trees.
Oh, well, there must have been some fig trees on the property.
Oh, they didn't. I was wondering if you were going to go, oh yeah, well that explains all the fig juice.
One of the funniest things was there was a quiet pool area. And there was all these like fancy Chilean families. This is like a place people come from Santiago for like the weekend, and there's all these like fancy families around us. And for whatever reason, they kept playing 90s English language hip hop on the radio at the pool, on the speakers at the pool. And these words were dropping that would have made like a toddler blush if anyone had understood the words that were coming out of like the very fast hip hopper's mouth. Yeah. Every word you can imagine. And there's these little kids. Yeah. It was just hilarious. Like so bizarre. Anyways, but that is Vina del Mar and Valparaíso. Super beautiful place to go. Again, you could spend a day there. You could spend a couple days there. There's a lot to do. And that was our first excursion outside of Santiago.
It sounds super fun. Was there a WeWork?
Oh no, this was during like the actual holiday break.
Yeah, right. So you had a real break there.
So the next place is, look, Chile. They make a lot of wine. They're known for their wine. I like my wine.
Of course.
We wanted to spend a day out in the vineyards.
Now, right, this is where you must be talking about the Valle de Colchagua, the wine region.
Ah, beautifully pronounced. Yeah, that is sort of the Napa of Chile. It's
right. Yeah. I've read about it. For a wine head like yourself, this is like South American Mecca.
Yeah, it's 150 kilometers south of Santiago. So we went on a tour, and I'll link in the show notes to the tour that we went on. But the provider was super professional, super easy to book over email. Picked us up at the hotel, and took us out and spent the day taking us to different vineyards. And what makes this area really special is that it extends sort of from the foot of the Andes all the way to the Pacific Ocean. So there's a lot of different types of soil and what they call microclimates. So they can produce a lot of different types of, wine and grape varieties. So, a lot of Cab Sauv, Merlot, Syrah. This Carmenere, which is like a grape that Chile is really known for, and Malbec. So you're going to get a lot of chance to check these out if you head out, and visit this region.
And is it like is it what I'm thinking of when you visit a winery where they'll do a lot of tastes and they have kind of a fancy room that you sit in, or is it a different sort of experience?
That's exactly like that. Yeah. So they've got a bunch of different vineyards out there. One of them we went to was Montgras, and they gave us a big tour of the facility, and then we did a tasting of some of their wines, and that was fantastic. And, no matter what tour guide you set up with, we would really recommend you try to go to the Montes winery for lunch, because we went to their lunch for their restaurant, and it's actually located in the middle of the vineyard. So you walk basically a boardwalk through the wine vineyard, and you arrive at this incredible restaurant where all the walls are glass. So no matter where you sit, you feel like you are totally, basically sitting in this incredibly beautiful vineyard. And the chef is Francis Maman, and the restaurant is Fuegos de Apalta. And it's a lot of just really fresh meat and fish and veggies cooked over a fire, which is in the middle of the restaurant. So again, you're like, it's a very White Lotus kind of place.
Okay.
I
don't know if that recommends it or not.
I just mean it's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. Yeah. It's really designed to feel like an experience, and the food and the wine are great. So for this particular vineyard, we didn't do a tasting there because we just drank a bunch of their wine at their restaurant, which is located.
That's cool. I feel like that's a great way to take it in, right? Like build your day around that meal and those wines.
Exactly. Totally. Yeah.
And were you able to, obviously when you're doing a lot of wine tasting, it's important to not be driving. So I know you weren't driving a lot of this trip, but would you recommend, are Ubers readily available to take you around?
No, we had a whole tour provider who set up the tastings and everything. I'm going to link in the show notes to her. She was great. And you can set up there, but if you Google, there are a couple different regions within a drive of Santiago that have similar experiences. We picked this one because the wines are supposed to be more unique and interesting. So that's sort of the reason we picked this particular tour. But there's a couple other, plenty of options. We went, with just a driver, and Chase and I, you can go with a group, and it can get pretty affordable if you do that. And then the very last place I want to talk about is the Termas Valle de Colina. Have you ever been to like a natural hot spring?
Yeah, in Iceland, did hot springs. I also did hot springs in, Indonesia, I believe.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, no, you know what? It wasn't Indonesia. It was Bhutan. That's where I did it. Yeah, I've done hot springs everybody does them in Iceland. That's a big thing to do on the Iceland trip. So I did the Blue Lagoon there. And I've also read after that there's a bunch of like local ones that most people don't get out to. So that's for the next trip to Iceland. But then probably the most memorable was in Bhutan.
In Bhutan, yes, they would do hot springs really well.
So is this like a destination built on natural hot springs?
Yeah, exactly. So this is about another 2-hour drive. And you're going to go, I mean, into the middle of nowhere. You'll be driving into the mountains, and you'll stop seeing cars for a while, and there'll be very small roads, and you'll finally arrive at this natural hot springs that are right on the border with Argentina, on the Chilean side. And there's a few different sort of providers, but they're all sort of how to put this. There are no facilities, right? So I'm an American, and so I'm thinking like I'm going to go there, and there's going to be, like a beautiful bathhouse to change in, and there's going to be a snack bar and maybe massages. None of that, right? So we made the horrible mistake of not bringing sunscreen.
Boy,
it was a horrible mistake. It was like,
you should be traveling with sunscreen.
I do. Well, he only had my fancy face sunscreen. So the whole day I'm taking my fancy face sunscreen that I carry with me and putting it all over my body. Like,
oh boy.
That
must have been an expensive day.
That was an expensive day, and it didn't help, because, but it was really beautiful because it's nestled in the mountains. It's natural, hot springs. It's a real adventure to get there. On the way back, the driver stopped at a small little like restaurant overlooking the mountain. So it was a really cool experience. I definitely regretted not bringing sunscreen and drinks and stuff. Like everyone else got the memo. The people there with like, basically picnics and like, all sorts of things. We came woefully unprepared with 2 little towels from the Airbnb. So that is, it was super cool. But if I would urge you to come prepared as if you're going to a beach day.
I just don't understand why they don't sell sunscreen.
They don't do capitalism well. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, you got to travel with sunscreen, folks.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, right. I feel like you did a huge range. You had like kind of beachy, cultural, wine, and hot springs. This is like all within a couple hours of Santiago. You really sold that this could be like a 2-3 week Santiago based vacation, and you hit kind of all the major markers.
Yeah, there's a lot to do in Chile, and there's a ton more in the sort of nature world that obviously that's not my thing. But when you go there, you'll do that episode.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, with that, I think it's time for the last stop.
The last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
Well, Ryan, we're here in the last stop. This is the last segment of the show, the final segment of the show. That's why it's called The Last Stop. And it's my favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. It's popularly known as the People's Segment. And that's because it's where we share. We come together as a community to give a part of ourselves to one another. Not in any sort of devious way, and especially not in some sort of sexual way. No, we're giving our spirit. But even though it could be anything, it could be a story, it could be a tale, it could be same as the story, it could be a yarn, it could be a piece of gear that we want to recommend or something we don't want to recommend after a bad experience, it could be an anecdote, it could be any of these things as long as it meets one criterion. It must inspire the spirit of wanderlust within us even during the workaday week. So Ryan, I'm going to ask you, as I ask you every episode, do you have a last stop this week?
I do, Kiernan. My last stop this week is the book I am reading in advance of my trip to Transylvania. It is a 1990s novel called The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. And it's a book that is taking the Dracula myth very seriously and historically, and is about an investigation into this woman's past, where she believes her father might have encountered Dracula during his travels in Romania and Turkey. And it's very, it's got that, I've never read Dan Brown, but it's trying to be like a intellectual sort of literary adventure through history and myth. And it's exciting. It's really fun, and it's fun to read. now, because I'm walking around Bucharest during the day and kind of getting that vibe.
That's pretty cool. And did you have you like reviewed Dracula, like Bram Stoker's Dracula, before heading out to I feel like you would need to tie together this book and the experience you're going to have visiting the castle.
Yeah, I just rewatched, I just watched not too long ago in theaters, Nosferatu, which is good fun, but I haven't read Bram Stoker's Dracula since I was like in middle school, probably.
I think you should. I've heard it's good to go back to. Yeah. Literally, a friend was just telling me that within the last year that it's like a super fun read. You should try to. I bet there's a free audiobook of it.
Yeah. No, I think it would be fun to listen to. When this book came out in like the 90s, it was a huge smash, and they reissued a Dracula with her introduction. So the books are very, very tied together. So it would be interesting to read or listen to with somebody who's got a good accent. So one thing in the book that I thought was really interesting is the father is traveling with the daughter, and he had been to a city 25 years before, and he's rushing the daughter all around to show her places that he remembered, and a good quarter of the places are gone or different. And he comments that when you travel when you're young, all those memories are brand new, and then when you travel to same places when you get older, you're trying to kind of refill in those memories. And I just thought that was an interesting kind of thought, and especially as I'm revisiting cities that I haven't been to in a decade.
Fun.
Yeah. So
it would be fun to get an audiobook where they do it in like the classic, like Dracula. And now Bram Stoker's Dracula, just for hours.
Yeah. I don't know that I would make it through, but did you bring us a last stop this week, Kiernan?
I did, Ryan. So I'm going to recommend a podcast that I've been listening to. You may remember on the Vatican episode, I praised a BBC podcast that I listened to called In Our Time. And it's like a hyper intellectual, real deep dive. Yeah. I mean, college level lecture. Usually it's a panel of professors. It can be dry, but if you're interested in the topic, it's really great. But a less dry but similarly compelling BBC podcast that I want to recommend that I've recently been just obsessing over is called The Food Chain. The Food Chain. And you know that I'm in the restaurant business here in Boston. And so I'm always looking for new publications and outlets to learn about food and restaurants. And to be honest, like a lot of the landscape of food media, it can get a little tiresome. They tend to like repeat the same topics, or there's kind of like hot topics that they all jump on. I remember when the Corona happened, like everything was about like stunty food and combining food. But The Food Chain is like a truly distinctive, very BBC take on food, where it talks, they claim that it's the intersection of business, science, and culture of food. And I have to say that each episode really does get to all of those pieces, because they talk about history, but then they also talk about the real business concerns that make the food system how it is. And as somebody who's in that system, I have never heard it so well represented as in the reporting on The Food Chain. And so, they'll do deep dives into specific ingredients or different types of food. There's a cool episode about stadium food and like why stadium food is how it is and how it gets associated with a sport. And I just think very highly of it. I like wait for it every week. And also it interestingly draws on journalists from around the vast BBC network. And so, you often don't know who you're going to hear from or what part of the world it's going to be about. But that's really where it ties to travel, where like so much of the BBC, it is truly global news. And I feel like there's not that many podcasts where I feel like I get that.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds dense. But you should send me an episode you think I would like.
Well, hold on. That's the other thing is It's not crazy dense because every episode is only like 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, and it is not hyper intellectual in the same way that In Our Time is. It's
Good.
just super
You know,
well
because I'm
very
shallow
deeply
millennial.
thoughtful.
I'm a shallow millennial.
Oh,
You know, if it goes
sure.
deeper than Wikipedia, I'm not there. Wikipedia gets pretty dense sometimes too, by the way. But
well, they also do these. There's like this series. Well, they'll do this like why we love X. So like why we love dumplings, and they'll sort of analyze the history of it, where it comes from, how it's been globalized. Anyway, it's a great listen, and you should go on, glance through the topics, pick an episode or two to try it out. You're going to get as hooked as I am.
All right, I'll get in between Suits episodes. I'll give that a
you're loving. I forgot to make fun of you. Oh my God, guys! So Ryan texts me the other day, and he goes, "Kiernan, have you ever watched Suits?" I'm like, "No," because I'm not, a 58-year-old woman. And Ryan goes, "Well, I'm not watching it. It's just on." Yeah, okay. I mean, talk about, classic American.
It reminded me of you that there's a lot of Harvard jokes and Boston jokes too. So
I would. Does it take place in Boston?
No, it takes place in New York, but the whole joke is they only hire Harvard grads.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
They're like singing the Harvard theme song and stuff. And I'm like, Kiernan would get along so well.
Gosh, last time I checked, Harvard doesn't have a theme song. But maybe that's something that I'll have to look into, Ryan.
It should.
Did they sing Fair Harvard?
Yes, Fair Harvard. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
Fair Harvard.
All right.
Well, Ryan,
wow.
I mean,
this has been an episode.
Yeah, this is really something. Corn Husker is really going to relate to all this Harvard talk. Ryan, I mean, next time we speak, we're going to be on the cusp of talking to the man himself, the godfather of Out of Office, the man who introduced the world to me, Rick Steves. We're so thrilled to have him back. So episode 200, we're gonna hit our what do you call this? Our second centennial with a big bang.
Centennial.
What is it?
Isn't there a word for it?
I don't know. Is there
something? Yeah, it's got. That's. I mean,
bicentennial. If only we had Wikipedia.
Yeah, bicentennial. No, that's 150.
Yeah,
that's
we're hitting our No, that's not 150.
Until then, I'm Ryan Davis,
and I'm Kiernan Schmidt,
and this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
Is seat taken? Rome. Ryan, you're going to have to go to a church in Rome. I know you don't like to go to church, but in Rome, it's a requirement.
I'm going to church.